according to Chain Store Age again, Instacart is launching Big and Bulky, a new fulfillment capability that enables same-day and scheduled delivery for large items that are big and bulky nationwide.
Mm-hmm.
Big Lots, the Container Store, Office Depot, and Staples are just a
Ooh.
few of the retailers who have already signed up to use this service. These retailers and others are now offering same day delivery of large items such as outdoor furniture, home office supplies, and electronics via the Instacart app. In some cases, Big and Bulky is even offered via retailers' own Instacart powered websites.
Yeah, that was interesting.
It should also be noted that the fulfillment technology behind Big and Bulky runs on Instacart's Carrot Delivery, an enterprise solution from Instacart that provides end-to-end fulfillment for retailers. Chris, I think you're our resident Big and Bulky expert now after yesterday's panel. So please pontificate on what you think of this new headline from Instacart.
From Instacart. Oh my God, 2 words that have never been said about me in my life: big and bulky. Yeah, but so backstory there that Anne's alluded to. I moderated a panel with 2 cool companies actually yesterday on big and bulky delivery and how it's transforming the industry, which I think is important. I learned a lot from that discussion. And here's what I'd say about this headline, Anne, and then want to hear what you've got to say as well. Like, I think it makes sense strategically if I'm Instacart, especially as they're trying to add revenue to goose their IPO. Right.
Yep.
I think that's kind of potentially what's going on here.
I think that's 100% right.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay. But I would also say that this is really hard to do well. And as I know from the former head of home furnishings for Target.com, which is all about big and bulky delivery. You're talking sofas, couches.
See, you are the resident expert on big and bulky. I joke, but you actually have experience.
I know relatively more about this than
back.
I do some of the things we talk about on a weekly basis. But I mean, some of the issues that come up, right? You have, for example, you have products that are harder to ship, right? Yep. They're big and bulky. That goes without saying. The other thing you have is customers typically need to be home to take these orders, which is an important factor. And then the other part that's really hard with this is when a product arrives and it's not in the condition that the customer expects, that return process is a nightmare.
Yeah, you don't want to be that delivery person.
No. And so the other point I met one of the companies I interviewed yesterday was called Dahlia. I interviewed their CEO. They've been trying to basically nationally brand LTL delivery for the past 7 years.
What's LTL delivery for the listeners who might not know that?
Basically,
acronym?
It means like when you need you have a non-standard product that you need to deliver in a bigger truck, right? Than a car or a trunk, like the Instacart DoorDash story or the DoorDash Facebook story we covered a couple weeks ago. This is different, and so they're trying to build a national brand around that. But it shows you that it's really hard. They've been doing it for 7 years, and they still haven't accomplished that. Now Instacart's saying, "Oh, we're suddenly going to do this with all these new complexities." So to me, if I was Instacart, while it makes sense strategically, it wouldn't be where I would focus my revenue and profit driving efforts to goose an IPO right now.
Okay.
Because it's going to take a hell of a long time.
Yeah. I mean, we said we've been hearing tons at this conference at Home Delivery World about the challenges of what you're talking about, of shipping large items, big and bulky delivery. You've been shipping these products for the last 10 years since you were at Target, as you mentioned. But I get the IPO like upcoming and how you expand your offerings and everything, but like this is really hard to do.
Right,
like,
that's exactly my point.
Why Instacart is taking this on with all of the other things that are out there? Like even if Instacart just said like, "Hey Meta, we see you're partnering with DoorDash. Do you want to partner with us too?"
Right.
Like just finding other ways, because it's not just about like, I don't know, the gig drivers that they're talking about here. Like that was another thing that occurred to me. Like, do you remember the early days of Uber and like how much longer it took to get an Uber XL? Like now you need the gig workers for Instacart who have larger vehicles to be able to sign up for this kind of thing. And I just don't see that happening. Like with gas prices being what they are, like the average gig worker, I imagine, is like using their most fuel efficient, like fastest, smallest car that they can to like run as many deliveries as they can to make as much money as possible within that hour. Like who's signing up for this service offering as your gig worker? So I think it's going to be a challenge for Instacart to make this profitable.
100%. I think you're hitting on the head. Like actually what it actually makes me think about too is like if you're actually Office Depot or Staples in this headline, I'd actually be questioning your judgment here, because you're right. This is going to be harder than the garden variety thing Instacart does day in and day out. They don't have the muscle memory on how to do it. there's already profit questions around Instacart. This is going to be a less profitable activity at startup than what you're doing before. It has to be, right? And so it just fundamentally, it just doesn't necessarily make sense. It seems like another stretch or a reach, and probably an indictment on those companies too, because like I said, this company Dolly, they've been doing this for 7 years.
Right.
And he talked all about the training, the intense training they put their drivers through to get the gig workers, to make sure that the truck is up to standard. Like Instacart's going to have to learn how to do all of that.
Yes. Yeah. There's a reason that nobody's touching this with a 10-foot big and bulky delivery.
Yeah, it's really hard, and most of the deliveries are done very decentralized. It's like Joe and John in their truck that are just happen to be contracted by a given retailer to do the delivery. It's crazy. It's a crazy space.